You can spend your entire life honing your skills and still be treated as invisible. Kafka knew this. He understood how we feel when no one notices our worth. Imagine working for years on something you love, improving every day, and yet people pass you by as if you didn't exist. Like water running through your fingers, your talent seems to escape the view of others. Kafka was a writer who told strange stories about ordinary people facing worlds that didn't make sense. He experienced this himself. He wrote brilliant stories at night, while during the day he worked in an office where no one noticed his gift. Many of his works only became known after his death. Think about it. One of the world's greatest writers spent much of his life being ignored. What about you? How many times have you felt like you had something special inside, but the world seems blind to it? Maybe you draw like no one else, but your drawings are kept in folders no one opens. Maybe you have ideas that could change your school or neighborhood, but no one stops to listen. Maybe you're kind when everyone else is rude, and yet no one notices. This feeling of invisibility isn't new. It's not just yours. It's part of what it means to be human in a distracted world. Kafka shows us that this pain has a name, a history, and most importantly, a meaning. And it's about that meaning that we're going to talk about today. The burden of dedication, studying, working, and giving your best, and still realizing that no one sees your worth. A life where talent doesn't guarantee recognition and where effort seems to vanish into thin air, leaving no trace. This invisible pain starts small, like a pebble in your shoe. You finish a school project with care, but the teacher barely even glances. You help around the house all day, but no one says, "Thank you." You compose a song in your room, but when you show it to someone, they just say cool and go back to their phone. Over time, that pebble grows. It becomes a stone, then a rock. And one day, it feels like you're carrying a mountain. You ask yourself, why keep trying if no one sees? It's like talking to an empty room, singing to deaf ears, painting to closed eyes. Kafka wrote about a man named Gregor who one day woke up transformed into a giant insect. His family, who had previously depended on him, began to treat him as a nuisance, a problem. Even though he had been a good son and brother for years, all it took was for him to change, to no longer be as useful as before, and he was forgotten, locked in a room, ignored. This story makes us wonder, are we only valuable for what we can offer others? Do our skills only matter when they serve someone? What if one day we can no longer be useful? Kafka's invisible pain is this, realizing that we can be easily replaced, forgotten, and cast aside. That we can give our all and still not receive even a look of recognition in return. This pain has lived in the hearts of many people. Perhaps it lives in yours too. If you've ever felt like a ghost, present but unseen, know that you are not alone on this journey. If this has already spoken to you, subscribe now and leave a like so you don't miss the next videos. A line from Kafka resonates, "In the mirror of contempt, even the rarest gift becomes a burden." He wasn't just talking about distant characters, but about us, who feel the weight of being invisible, even when we try to shine. Kafka was born in 1883 in Prague, an ancient city full of castles and bridges. He grew up in a family that didn't understand his passion for writing. His father wanted him to be a businessman, strong and decisive, but Kafka was quiet, thoughtful, and loved to create strange stories that made people think. During the day, he worked in an insurance office, a normal job with paperwork, stamps, and rules. At night, in his small room, he wrote stories about people trapped in meaningless worlds where the rules changed without warning and no one explained why. In one of his most famous stories, a man waits his entire life to enter a door made just for him. When he finally dies, he discovers that the door will be closed forever without him ever having entered. In another story, a man wakes up one day to discover he's been convicted of a crime he doesn't know by judges he never sees. These stories sound like nightmares, but they speak to things we all feel. The feeling that there are rules we don't understand, that something important is happening somewhere, and we've been left out. When Kafka says that, in the mirror of contempt, even the rarest gift becomes a burden, he shows us how difficult it is to continue believing in our worth when others don't see it. How painful it is to carry a talent that no one recognizes. How lonely it is to have something to offer and find no one to receive it. Kafka's voice has transcended time because he managed to name this feeling that many experience but few can explain, that of being a stranger in one's own world. of having value, but finding no one to value it. This voice speaks to those who have felt that their best qualities are invisible to others. It speaks to those who have thought, if no one sees my best qualities, do I really have anything good? Today, Kafkaesque absurdity manifests itself when our abilities are lost among algorithms that don't show us, bosses who don't listen to us, or friends who don't perceive who we truly are. We live in a theater where talent is often overlooked, and the stage always seems reserved for others. Imagine a girl who makes incredible videos, posts them online, and only gets 5 views, while less polished videos get millions of clicks. The algorithm, that secret recipe that decides what people will see, didn't choose to showcase her work, no matter how much effort she put in. Or think of a boy who has brilliant ideas in class, but because he's shy and speaks softly, the teacher always calls on the more extroverted students. His knowledge is trapped inside him, with no chance to shine. This is today's Kafkaesque world, full of invisible doors, unseen judges, rules that change when we're not looking. It's a world where one video can become famous by accident, while another, made with great care, disappears into the ocean of content. It's a world where those who shout the loudest are heard, even if they have nothing important to say. In Kafka's time, it was the world of big business, complicated governments, and rigid families. Today it's social media, competitive schools, and hard-to-get jobs. But the feeling is the same. We're lost in a maze where our best qualities may not be enough to open the right doors. It's like a giant theater where everyone wants to be on stage, but the play has already been cast and the lead roles given to others. You've rehearsed, memorized your lines, donned your best costume, and ended up as an extra in the background, or worse, in the audience, watching others shine. But here's the most important question. If the theater is absurd, if the play doesn't make sense, if the roles are distributed unfairly, why do we continue to want to be a part of it so much? Comment here, which part of your life seems most like absurd theater? But what if the problem wasn't just the world? What if, without realizing it, we ourselves had learned to diminish the value of what we know how to do? Perhaps the prison of invisibility is also fueled by our own inner voice, which repeats, "It's not enough." Here's the darkest twist in this story. After so long being ignored, we start to ignore ourselves too. It's like an echo that comes back and hits us. If no one values what I do, maybe it's really not worth it. In one of his diaries, Kafka wrote that he often felt at war with himself. Part of him wanted to write, to create worlds with words. Another part told him it was a waste of time, that he would never be good enough, that he should give up. This conflict consumed him internally. Think about young children. They draw, sing, and dance without worrying about whether they're doing it right. They proudly show off their drawings, even if it's just a circle with 2 sticks. When did we lose that joy? When did we start hiding our talents for fear of not being good enough? Maybe it was when someone laughed at a drawing we made, or when someone compared our music to someone better, or when our writing received no comments. Every little rejection builds a wall between us and our abilities, and so without realizing it, we become our own executioners. Even before the world ignores us, we're already diminishing ourselves. This isn't good enough. No one will like this. Better not even try. Kafka understood this internal prison. In his story, The Burrow, an animal spends its life building a perfect refuge, protected from enemies. But the more secure the burrow becomes, the more paranoid the animal becomes, imagining threats on every side. In the end, its greatest prison is its own fear. Likewise, our greatest prison can be our own critical voice, the one that tells us our talents will never be enough, that they don't deserve to be seen, that it's better to keep them hidden to avoid the pain of rejection. This is the darkest turn of invisibility, when we begin to become invisible to ourselves. Kafka shows us that escaping this emptiness is futile. Confrontation begins by looking within and admitting that we have no control over external recognition. Courage lies in continuing to create, even if the world doesn't applaud. In Kafka's stories, characters often try to escape absurd situations. They run through endless corridors, knock on doors that won't open, and plead with invisible judges. But the escape never works. The labyrinth only becomes more complicated, the doors heavier, the judges deafer. The hidden lesson is that the only way out is through accepting that we live in a world where recognition doesn't always come, where applause may never arrive, where value isn't always seen. Imagine Joseph K., the character in The Trial, who spends the entire book trying to prove his innocence to a court that never fully reveals itself. He runs from place to place, talking to people who claim to be able to help, but only lead him deeper into the maze. If, instead of running, he had stopped and asked, "What if I didn't need this court's approval?" perhaps his story would have been different. The real confrontation isn't with the world that doesn't see us. It's with the part of us that desperately needs to be seen. It's like a child learning to ride a bike. At first, they constantly look to their parents, seeking approval, applause, confirmation that they're doing it right. But there comes a time when they're so caught up in the joy of pedaling that they forget to look back. They pedal for the pleasure of feeling the wind on their face, not for the applause. This is the challenge Kafka invites us to face. Keep writing, even if no one reads. Keep painting, even if no one sees. Keep dancing, even if no one applauds. Not because recognition doesn't matter, it does, we are human after all, but because creation itself has value. It's difficult, it's painful. It's like swimming against the current in a world that values likes, views, and applause. But it's also liberating. It's finding value in the process, not just the result. It's creating for the love of creation, not just for the love of recognition. Write in the comments, do you face the void or run away from it? Kafka offers no easy promises. He teaches that the pain of being ignored can transform into awareness. What no one values is still part of your essence. Emptiness doesn't destroy your ability, it simply hides it from the eyes of others. Emptiness is not an enemy, it is a mirror. Kafka's books are strange. They don't end with happy endings where everything is resolved. Often, they end mid-sentence, or with the character still lost. This bothers many readers. We want answers, solutions, clear paths. But Kafka knew that life rarely offers these. Instead of answers, he gives us mirrors. Mirrors that reflect our loneliness, our confusion, our sense of being lost in a world that makes no sense. And it is by looking into these mirrors that we can find something precious, the truth about ourselves. When no one sees your talent, when your effort goes unnoticed, when your voice doesn't resonate, you're standing before one of these mirrors. The lack of recognition reflects a question. Why do you do what you do? Is it for the applause, for the praise, for external validation? Or is there something deeper? Imagine a musician playing in a subway station. Hundreds of people pass by without stopping. Some throw coins, most don't even look. Why does he keep playing? Maybe because the music is his. Because while he plays, he is completely himself. Because in that moment, he is alive in a way he wouldn't be if he kept the music inside. This is the hidden lesson we can draw from Kafka. The emptiness of recognition isn't just pain. It's also an invitation to discover what truly matters to us. What we would do even if no one ever applauded. What we would create even if no one ever saw. Emptiness is not an enemy. It is a mirror. In it, we see not only our pain of not being recognized, but also our deepest truth. What remains when all recognition is withdrawn is our purest essence. Your skills, your talents, your creations, they are yours whether the world sees them or not. The void can hide them from the eyes of others, but it can never take them from you. And you, how many times have you felt invisible even when you were doing your best? How many times have you felt like a replaceable part of your own life? This is the silent wound of our age. We're experts at surviving, but amateurs at being seen. Think about a time when you really put effort into something. Maybe you studied hard for a test. Maybe you helped a friend when they needed it most. Maybe you created something beautiful, a drawing, a song, a story. Now, remember, did anyone notice? Did anyone stop to say, "That's amazing," or "You made a difference"? Or did your efforts disappear like waves on sand, leaving no trace? Most of us know this feeling all too well. The boy who tidies the entire house and no one notices until he leaves a towel out of place. The girl who gets good grades all year but only gets attention when she gets a bad grade. The friend who's always available to listen, but when he needs to talk, everyone else is busy. In our fast-paced world, we're like actors on a massive stage, all screaming for attention at once. Millions of voices trying to be heard, billions of talents waiting to be discovered. And amidst this crowd, it's easy to feel like just another face, another act, another character that can be replaced at any moment. This is the silent wound many carry, the feeling that we are invisible even when we make ourselves present. that we are replaceable even when we are unique, that we are forgettable even when we give our best. Kafka understood this wound deeply. In The Metamorphosis, Gregor Samsa supported his entire family, sacrificing his dreams for them. But when he turns into an insect and can no longer work, the family quickly adapts to life without him. In the end, his death is almost a relief to them. This story touches us because it speaks to a universal fear. What if one day I can no longer serve? What if one day I'm no longer useful? Will I still have value? Will I still be loved? We're experts at surviving, at doing what's necessary, at adapting, at moving forward. But we're amateurs at being seen, at showing who we truly are, at asking for recognition, at valuing our own abilities. Kafka whispers a sentence that can become a mantra. Recognition may fail, but creation never betrays. The true point of no return is when we continue, even though we know the world may not notice us. There comes a moment in the life of every artist, every creator, every human being who dedicates themselves to something with passion, the moment they realize they may never receive the recognition they deserve, that you can create the most beautiful work in the world and still die in obscurity, that you can give your all and still not be seen. This is a time of profound crisis. Many give up here. They put aside their talents, abandon their dreams and choose safer paths, where applause is guaranteed, even if half-heartedly. But there is another way. The way Kafka, even in his sadness and loneliness, shows us. To keep creating, even knowing that recognition may never come. To keep expressing who you are, even if no one is watching. When Kafka was dying, he asked his friend Max Brod to burn all his unpublished manuscripts. He felt they weren't good enough, that the world didn't need them. Luckily, Brod didn't comply. Instead, he published the works after Kafka's death, allowing the world to experience one of the greatest writers of all time. Kafka died without knowing the impact he would have, never imagining that his strange and dark stories would touch millions of people around the world, never dreaming that his name would become an adjective, Kafka-esque, to describe absurd and senseless situations. This is the deepest irony. The man who wrote about being ignored, about not being seen, about doors that never open, became one of the most important voices in world literature. And perhaps this is the most valuable lesson he leaves us. Recognition may fail. It may come too late. It may never come. But creation, the act of expressing who you are through what you do, never betrays. Because every time you create, every time you express your talent, you become more yourself, more complete, more alive. The true point of no return isn't when the world finally recognizes you. It's when you decide to keep going, even knowing the world may never notice you. It's when you choose your art, your passion, your truth, not for the applause it might bring, but for the joy it already brings. And this is where we close this cycle. Your abilities may be overlooked, but they will never cease to be part of who you are. If this message resonated with you, comment here, I accept the void. We live in a world that teaches us from an early age to seek validation. Likes, followers, ratings, compliments, promotions, outward signs that we are seen, that we matter, that what we do has value. But what if true value lay elsewhere? What if it lay in the moment your hands play the piano, even if no one hears? In the moment your words form a story, even if no one reads? In the moment your heart opens to help someone, even if no one thanks you? Kafka lived a life many would consider a failure. He published few books during his lifetime. He never married. He died young of tuberculosis, believing his work would be forgotten. But in his diary, he wrote something powerful. Do not despair, not even because you do not despair. These strange words carry profound wisdom. Keep going even when everything seems meaningless. Create even when no one is watching. Express who you are even when emptiness seems the only answer. Because in the end, your abilities don't exist to be seen, applauded, or recognized. They exist because you exist. They're part of who you are. They're your unique way of being in the world. The emptiness of recognition can hurt. It can make you question whether it's worth continuing. But accepting this emptiness, not as a defeat, but as part of the journey, is one of the most courageous acts we can perform. When you comment, I accept the void, you're not surrendering to invisibility. You're affirming that your worth doesn't depend on the gaze of others, that your abilities are valuable in themselves, that you will continue to create, express, and be, not for the applause that may come, but for the truth that already exists within you. This is the ritual we share today, the recognition that we are greater than the recognition we receive, that our abilities are ours, whether the world sees them or not. And maybe, as with Kafka, recognition will come one day, maybe not, but you will have lived a true life, a life where your abilities were not wasted, even when they were ignored, a life where you chose to create, to express, to be, simply because that's who you are. I invite you to watch the video on the card and conclude this ritual of reflection.